And here is his daughter Rachel, coming with the sheep. While he was still speaking with them, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she kept them. And when Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of his mother's brother Laban, and the sheep of his mother's brother Laban, Jacob went up and rolled the stone from the well's mouth and watered the flock of his mother's brother Laban. Last time I preached on this scripture, it was during a pandemic and nobody was in the room to alert me to what you'd really be thinking about, which is a family tree and that these guys are cousins, and yes. But I did not prepare a sermon about the biblical models of marriage. And that's a whole other topic. And let this be a sign unto you. Maybe we don't want them. This is really meant to talk about sheep. And there's a lot of sheep logistics in this passage. So the focus is on the sheep logistics, right? There's a well. Also, P.S. Rachel is tending flocks. There can be lady shepherds. Everybody in the ancient world that is connected with the Hebrew Bible, who is a leader of any kind, is compared to this metaphor of shepherd, good shepherd or bad. David, Moses, Rachel, Jacob, all of them. They are all shepherds, these heroes, these archetypes, these folks that every generation looked to think about what the model of God looks like, what the model of authority and king and leader looks like. They are these herding people that come in this Neolithic time to a settled region, and unlike the other patriarchal religions that do the same thing and sort of interrupt the agrarian spaces that had a very feminine divine, this group has a metaphor for God beyond a warrior, beyond a lightning bolt wielding storm god, but God is shepherd. And that might mean something to us if we were like still people who kept sheep. I don't know if any of you keep sheep. So far, none. Okay. Yeah. My experience with sheep is limited to watching my junior high best friend try to train her sheep for the 4-H sheep thing. And I will tell you, it seemed like you could not train a sheep. My other experience with sheep is growing up in Plattsmouth, Nebraska at the First United Methodist Church, because everybody was like, there's going to be so many Methodist churches. Every town has a First Church, and that's it. Anyway, there was a giant window of Jesus, little hippie Jesus, blue eyes, very cute shepherd, very clean sheep. It looks like they're in Ireland now that I think about it, but sheep, nonetheless, great metaphor, sometimes questionably played out. The thing about sheep is, historically, even in the time when Jesus lived, sheep are not like a respectable animal. They're perceived as stupid and stubborn and dumb. Reverend Judy Dye, who has moved to Texas from Nebraska, but was a part of our community for a long time and still stays connected, grew up on a farm. She remembers taking care of little lambs and how that smell just got right into you, and how the folks in town would think that you belonged with those stupid sheep. She could sing the praises of the cute, big, brown-eyed cows and all the other animals, but she too felt like those sheep were kind of stinky and annoying. And maybe we have heard a lot about sheep in a weird way in the last few years. There's this word, if you've been out in the world and seen any bumper stickers or interesting t-shirts, sheeple. It's a word. People are using sheep and people together. It actually didn't start just now. It was first used in 1945, and it's actually in the dictionary. And it says a docile, compliant, or easily influenced person or group of people. It's become a popular line of attack from conservative Christians. Maybe you have been called a sheeple if you've had the opportunity because you thought, I'm going to wear a mask. Or because, there's a global pandemic and I would like to hear what the scientists have to say. Or because you maybe denounced white supremacy, or because you wondered about anything at all that might be a question towards an authoritarian leader. Like that. And then this phrase grew into something else. Like maybe you have seen it, folks with shirts that say, "Raising lions, not sheep." Sorry, that's just my impression of them. I've seen them. And maybe you've seen some merch and bumper stickers or like full decals on the back of giant trucks, which, by the way, are probably not doing actual work. They're just pretty big trucks. Say, "Lions, not sheep. Lions, not sheep. Lions, not sheep." So if you go to lionsnotsheep.com, you can find the OG products. And they're very proud of their made in the USA products. And they're very Christian. And they have images of the cross that says lion, not sheep. They have images of a machine gun that says lions, not sheep. They have those two combined in curious ways. And they also have some side merch, some new merch, because time passes. And their new merch includes slogans like, "Give violence a chance." Yeah, thank you. That wasn't the worst one yet. Hold on. Hashtag FKH. And I was like, and then I looked at it and it says, "If you know, you know." And I was like, I don't know. And then I looked further and it means F Kamala Harris. Yeah, and then a great shirt, which you can also get as a patch for your military outfit, that has like a very voluptuous angel with a machine gun and a cross that says, "Pray for peace, prepare for war." And then the pièce de résistance, in my opinion, of course, is the Donald Trump face with the American flag background and GOAT under it. Yeah, GOAT, greatest of all time, if you will. Now, just on a side note, we'll get to this GOAT part in the Bible. Just a second, don't worry. On a side note, I just want to say this is extra, and a responsible pastor would just cut it for time, but I am not that. So this company was taken to, was fined by, the Better Business Bureau or somebody by the state of Utah. It was a liberal use of the government to target conservatives, they say, because their merch was not actually made in the U.S. They were cutting out tags that say "Made in China" and sewing in tags that said "Made in the USA." I can send you the articles. But then your algorithm will provide you with some real weird stuff. So research at your own risk. Anyway, the thing is, our Bible and the Christian tradition is pretty pro-sheep and anti-goat. If you've listened extensively to the band Cake, you know there's a song. Maybe that was just me. Okay, thank you. Me and Sangeetha are the only people. Okay, thank you. No, earlier, the sheep go to heaven, goats go to hell. I was alone. And it's true, apparently. So because of my sheep-related experiences adjacently with a middle school best friend whose experience was sort of just showing sheep at the fair one year, I reached out to our 4-H extension officers, and I read some books about these biblical religious historians who went and lived as shepherds in the Holy Land for a while. And I read them so you don't have to, because that's the kind of book they are. Anyway, what I have learned from Cole Meader, the extension agent for animal husbandry and a shepherd, is that these texts show us about how shepherding works in the ancient world and even in the modern world. That there's this tradition of young children, girls and boys, being responsible for taking a little flock out of the village to feed and to drink and to come back in. And then there's a tradition of folks who are shepherds who travel with their flocks far and wide. And these shepherds are incredibly vulnerable. They have to defend these sheep and usually goats. They have both, typically, in the ancient world, from predators that have 2 legs and predators that have 4 legs, and they don't have much except their own self to rely on. You remember David has a slingshot that he's really good at. It's how he took down Goliath. They have all kinds of time on their hands. They have all kinds of worries to be aware of. And the thing about sheep is that they might seem a little stubborn. Like, they're different from goats. Goats will eat everything. Goats will eat anything. They will eat the shoe. They will eat whatever weed. They will eat whatever part of the tree. Goats will drink whatever water you've got. They will go wherever. They are curious, and they have some ability to defend themselves. And the goats were kept for milk primarily. The sheep were not curious about getting out in the world, and the sheep did not have sort of the ability to kick or defend themselves in that way. And the sheep, it sounds, are a bit high maintenance, past and present, if you will. Sheep will not eat. You cannot just take them to a place to eat and say, here's some grass, eat it. They have to feel calm and safe to eat. The grass has to be just right. Like, the steak cannot be over medium well. It has to be perfect. The water has to be calm and still and clean, or they will not drink it. And so it can seem like sheep are awfully high maintenance and that they are awfully stubborn, because the sheep will follow a ewe, this kind of lead ewe, this grandmother sheep who leads the whole flock. She has a relationship with the shepherd. The sheep know the shepherd's voice, and the sheep's value is in the wool primarily. If they ever slaughter sheep, it is the whole lamb is used. Every part. Bones become needles. The leather becomes clothing. The bladder becomes a tool for saving water for when you need it most. Every part. And because the sheep have this wisdom, what Cole says, it's like he'd like to rebrand sheep. It's this wisdom of flocking, this flocking intelligence. The sheep will stay together. They will hone in on each other. They will find each other. They will stay together. Unless there is really severe danger and they get separated, they will stay together. Which is also why, when it is time to occasionally slaughter a few lambs, that mama ewe isn't very good at bringing them to slaughter. And so the shepherds, past and present, typically use a goat to bring the lambs in to slaughter. Our tradition invites us into this metaphor of sheep and shepherd. It invites us and humbles us into thinking of our own selves as these animals that are maybe a little high maintenance, even if we don't want to think about it. It invites us to think about our own selves as a flock and to lean into this possible wisdom of flocking. how staying tight, how staying community, how staying oriented towards everyone is a gift and a value. And how maybe we shouldn't aspire to be the goat so much after all. This week, I think we saw the goat in the metaphor. And we've seen it before. We saw folks give praise to God, the Good Shepherd, as though this is the direction a good shepherd would hope for all of us to go. See, a good shepherd is vulnerable and stays alongside the vulnerable sheep and isn't mad that the sheep are sheep. The good shepherd protects and finds safe space and safe pasture for everyone. This week, we saw ICE already taking action. This week, our friends at St. Andrew's United Methodist Church had furniture ready to set up homes for new refugees who had done everything except flown here. And Donald Trump's administration stopped that process that had begun so long before. Men prayed and prayed and prayed at the inauguration, some even quoting Dr. King. Symbols of white supremacy and dog whistles rung out everywhere this week. The work ahead of us to find and to be and to flock is hard. And the scriptures never talk about it being easy, actually. But I do think it's interesting and important for us to remember that Jesus, in the midst of oppression, in the midst of terror, in the midst of the worst kind of authoritarian leadership in Rome, leaned on this metaphor of God as the good shepherd, a God who brings the flock together. And then he said, I am the good shepherd. He named this gathering of people that drew people close, that worked for the vulnerable, that said no to the greedy, that said everybody deserves water that is clean and clear. Everybody deserves the food that will nourish them, and everyone deserves a place to rest and be safe. It is not too much to ask. There is wealth beyond wealth in our community and beyond. And there is so much more for us to ask for and to work for. And we, as a community, are stronger together. We have this gift of a flock. We have the gift of one another. And so we are called into this work to show up, to say no, to bear witness, and hopefully to have some fun when we can. May it be so. Amen.